In the previous lessons, I talked about the shift of using Server Core by default and avoiding having any kind of graphical shell locally on a server. However, the question comes, well, how do I manage these boxes? In this lesson, we're going to cover the new management paradigm, which is shifting the management to being performed remotely from a client operating system. If you look back on the IT industry, in the data centers, we would have a number of physical servers, and on each server was a single operating system. Management was performed by walking into the data center, sitting down at a terminal, and then managing that one box at a time. If I wanted to manage a different box, I would connect my terminal to the second server, and via the local operating system, run the management tools and perform the management. Nothing has really changed. Even as we look at today's environments with virtualization, with remote desktop protocols, most administrators will remote desktop into a server operating system, be it a physical or a virtual, and then locally on that box fire up the management tools and then manage one box at a time. As data centers have more and more operating systems, this approach of managing locally, in effect, really doesn't scale very well. Windows Server 2012 really takes the shift to enable multi-server management. And a catchphrase you'll hear commonly is the power of many, the simplicity of one, to really represent the shift to manage multiple servers as if it was a single instance. This multi-server management has been enabled through Server Manager, which was actually first introduced in Windows Server 2008 and enhanced in 2008 R2, which is what I'm showing on the screen here. The shift in Server Manager was, instead of having separate tools such as the Event Viewer, Disk Manager, and even the Computer Management Snapping, each of these only showed data related to the specific tool. Event Viewer focused on showing event logs for everything. Device Manager focused on showing all the devices. Service Views just showed every service on the system. It wasn't really friendly in terms of, I'm trying to troubleshoot Active Directory. I'm trying to troubleshoot IIS or manage IIS. The goal of Server Manager was to bring the focus to the particular role that was being used on this box. So it would show me all the logs related to a specific role on the server, in addition to bringing all the various configuration items to the server in this main first page, giving me an easy way to manage. In Windows 2008 R2, we had the ability to remotely manage another box, which was not possible in Windows 2008. This is what allowed us to remotely manage a Server Core box in Windows Server 2008 R2, but it's only managing one box at a time. The big shift we see today is Server Manager has been completely re-envisioned in Windows Server 2012. You'll notice it has taken on some of that Metro theme. I'm now managing multiple servers at once. You can see here on my server, I have multiple servers configured in this Server Manager interface. My main page shows me a dashboard. It's traversing each server. It's working out what services are installed, and it's actually showing me the overall health state of the various services. Notice it's showing me information about services that are installed, if there's errors, events, best practice analyzer, and various performance aspects. I can click on one of these and it actually shows me the best practice analyzer problems across all of the boxes in my environment. I can also go and see, for example, all the services that are not running across all my different boxes. And I could Control A to select them all, right click, and do Start Services to start all those services through a single action. Individually, I can select a box or multiple boxes and scroll down and see all the pertinent events on that box, the state of all its services, best practice analyzer results, performance counters. I can create monitors to alert me if CPU usage exceeds a certain value for a period of time, if the memory drops below a certain value. I can remotely manage all my roles and my features. So this is really a key element of how I'm going to manage my servers. And notice I can also do management of things like file and storage services through Server Manager. I don't have to use separate tools, it's all just part of Server Manager. Likewise, I can manage things like IP address management, remote desktop services, and many more. So this becomes our central management point for Windows Server 2012. The key point is this remote management capability is actually enabled by default on Windows Server 2012. If I install a fresh Windows Server 2012 installation, be it Server Core, Server with a GUI, or the management infrastructure components, MinWin, remote management is enabled by default. I don't have to do anything for that capability. I can disable it if I wanted to, and if I wanted to re-enable it again, for example, if I actually jump to a server, if I look at the local server, one of my options is actually related to remote management, and I can see here it's enabled. But if I clicked on that and it said disabled, I would just click that box to enable it again. It's also possible to configure that through PowerShell. For example, I can use the configure SM remoting and say enable, which would enable that remote management capability. But as I said, it should be enabled by default on any fresh installation. Enabling that remote management also enables the firewall exceptions for remote server management, which can be seen here using the Windows Firewall with Advanced Security application. Again, these rules are automatically enabled on a fresh installation and when you enable that remote management capability. This concludes our initial lesson on the new Server Manager interface.